I rated every Premier League team in my previous video, but now it's time to dive into those teams and look at the best player from every Premier League team so far this season. We begin with Arsenal, and for the first one I'll be using OneFootball to take a look at who I think has been the best player in the midfield department. Here on their profile we can tap onto Albert Sambi Lokonga, and we can see on his profile here he's 21 years old, about to turn 22, but for such a young player, a midfielder, he's been really impressive in my opinion. What we can do on the app is swipe to the right and see his stats from this season. He's featured in 6 of the 7 Premier League matches this season, won 12 tackles with an 83% win rate, won 32 duels with a 66% win rate, and had 7 interceptions. And with him winning 12 tackles, that is the most that any player has made for Arsenal this season. For Arsenal to sign a young player like him, we didn't know if he'd be a starter in the team. However, from the app we can see that he's featured a lot and he has been impressive when he's played. And that really is what OneFootball is brilliant for, viewing detailed stats for every Premier League player, but not just the players, for the whole team as well. So to get access to that yourself, you can download OneFootball on your phone by simply clicking the link in the description. For Aston Villa, I was thinking of going for Matty Cash. I've been impressed by him this season once again, but I think actually I will go with Danny Ings. It's the easy choice to make, but with 2 goals and 2 assists so far, being a new signing for big money, of course then that creates an expectation around Danny Ings to start well, and we've seen how he can do in the Premier League with Southampton. But could Ings come into the Villa team and start well straight away? And well, he's proved that he can. If Leon Bailey had played more regularly, maybe we'd be saying him instead of Danny Ings. I can't wait to see him play more in a Villa shirt. For Brentford, it's another obvious name, but I am going to go for Ivan Toney. Once again, for him there was an expectation coming into the Premier League. Can he do what he did in the Championship? And while in more recent matches he was able to get an assist against Liverpool, a goal and an assist against Wolves, and his other goal came against Aston Villa. As well as his goals, he's also created the most chances for Brentford, and as well as that, he's won the most aerial duels, not just for Brentford but in the Premier League with 41. That's 6 more than second place Shane Duffy. And in fact that is a really nice transition into Brighton, where I am going to say Shane Duffy as their best player this season. An added factor into making that decision is the fact that he was on loan last season at Celtic. He seemed like an outsider at Brighton and he couldn't really get back into the first team. But with the departure of Ben White, he's come into the team and had to fill a massive void, and he's done really well. 35 aerial duels won with a 71% win rate. He's also been able to score a goal, and his aerial threat in the box from corners is huge. It's great to see him doing well, and I think he's going to play a big part in the whole of the season for Brighton. For Burnley, I'm going to go with Dwight McNeil. He's been really good in many departments for them. He's made 24 successful dribbles, and the player with the most after him is Goodmanson on 8, so you can see there's a massive difference between the two. He's won 19 tackles, which is the most for the club, so he's winning the ball high up the pitch, and 10 key passes is the joint most with Ashley Westwood. Plain and simple, based on the stats, he's been the best player, but he's not scored or assisted yet, so that will be a concern. For Chelsea, I am going to say Romelu Lukaku. I've realised for quite a few of the players it has been based off the expectation coming into this season. Will they play well based on how they've performed at other clubs? The added factor with Lukaku was the near £100 million fee, so you expected him to start well. Well, so far he's scored 3 goals and he's also made 10 key passes, which is the second most for Chelsea. With a player like him, you expect him to start firing straight away, and he was also seen as the last piece of the puzzle that Chelsea needed. With that being said, however, he has gone 3 Premier League matches without a goal, and his last goal for Chelsea came in the Champions League on the 14th of September. So he needs to get back to goal scoring ways, but with a player like him, I don't think it'll be too long. For Crystal Palace, it's simply been Conor Gallagher. He's been outstanding in their midfield. We knew he'd been a good player at West Brom, but we've seen a little bit of a different side to him at Crystal Palace, being a bit more attacking, and he's been able to score 2 goals and get 1 assist. He's pushing into the attacking third a lot and getting into the penalty area, where he makes himself an option for other people to pass to. A really good signing for Crystal Palace and a great part of the system under Patrick Vieira. For Everton, I'm going to go with Abdoulaye Doucouré. I've realised I'm saying a lot of the players that I talked about in my top 5 surprising players of this season, but Doucouré really has been outstanding in their midfield and a total contrast to the player that we've seen previously at Everton. But under Rafa Benitez, he's been doing everything, and if we saw this team without Doucouré in it, there would be a massive difference. Getting into the opposition box to be able to score goals, being going outside the box to be able to assist for other players or getting into his own box and making last-ditch tackles. It's all about the boxes for Doucouré, and he's ticking all the boxes too. At Leeds United, we've seen continued good performances from Raphinha. He showed last season the kind of player that he can be, and he's continued that with 3 goals this season. A really dangerous player, able to score from all types of different angles. He wants to take on people, and he has done this season with 12 successful dribbles. He's had 24 shots this season, that is the most of any Leeds player, as well as 14 key passes, and that is also the most of any Leeds player. An important player for the team and easily the best this season. At Leicester City, we've seen Jamie Vardy score 6 goals this season, that is the most for Leicester, and also the most in the Premier League along with Mo Salah. Season after season, Jamie Vardy continues to score. He's not slowing down. Even with Kelechi Iheanacho at the club and the new signing of Patson Daka, that's probably motivated him even more to keep scoring for the team and prove that he can still do it. He remains a massive part of their team, where he will be their top goal scorer this season and up there with the top goal scorers in the league. For Liverpool, while we just mentioned his name, Mo Salah has scored 6 goals this season, the most in the Premier League along with Jamie Vardy, and he just scored a fantastic goal against Manchester City. There is a lot of talk about Mo Salah right now possibly being the best player in the Premier League, and with his form, well, I can't really argue. In recent times, there's been quite a bit of talk about Liverpool's forward line. Does it need reinventing? Ismaila Sarr and Raphinha are names that have been linked, but they play in Salah's position, and I can't see them coming in and playing in front of him so far. At Manchester City this season, we've seen Gabriel Jesus play as a right winger. Now, last season his goal contributions were quite sporadic throughout the season, but this season he's been able to get 6 goal contributions in 7 matches. Scoring 2 goals and assisting 4 times, his 6 goal contributions are double what the next player has, that's Ferran Torres. So instead of playing as a centre forward, which he did for the majority of last season, playing out wide has seen him be a more creative player, gaining 4 assists. So for that reason, the different role and adapting to it well, I think he's been their best player. For Manchester United, I am going to go with Paul Pogba. He's got 7 assists this season, and 4 of them came against Leeds in the opening match of the season, but then he got 1 against Southampton and 2 against Newcastle. So I think we've seen from him what we really expect, and that's Paul Pogba making passes that other players can't, finding the vision for a pass that is just so difficult, and he hasn't been as consistent with it. In the last 3 Premier League matches, he hasn't had a goal contribution, but in terms of getting Pogba to do what you want him to do, be creative, he's done exactly that this season. At Newcastle, you can't say anything other than Alan Saint-Maximin. He scored 2 goals and got 3 assists, and every time you watch Newcastle, he's always the best player. The flair that he brings, wanting to take on people, the creativity, getting shots off all the time. So he's a great player for them, such an important player, but when it comes to picking their best player this season, there's not really much competition. At Norwich, it's a really difficult one. There's hardly been anyone that's been that good, but their only 2 goals have both come through Teemu Pukki, and even though he's not really played that well, I mean, he's the only player who's scored, so he's got to get some sort of praise for that. However, if I was making the first 11 for the next match, even though he has scored both goals, I think they should be using other players than Teemu Pukki now. But that's a debate for another video. Their best player this season has been Pukki for simply scoring a goal. At Southampton, I'm going to go for one of their new signings in Livramento at right back. He signed from Chelsea this summer, a young player, 18 years of age, and so far he hasn't registered an assist in the Premier League. However, I don't think it will be too long. What he's been able to do really well is collect the ball in deeper positions and run down that right flank, get it into the final third. He's shown that he's got the ability to take on the opposition, to link up with the other forwards in the team, and then be in the build-up to chances created. So I've been impressed by him. I think he's been their best player. At Tottenham, I've been impressed by Lucas Moura this season. He seems to be able to make something happen out of nothing. Picking the ball up in tight spaces and taking on people, a very mobile player and creative too. So in a team managed by Nuno Espirito Santo, where there hasn't really been too much excitement around Tottenham at the moment, I think Lucas Moura has brought a bit of that to the team. However, even with that being said, Lucas Moura hasn't registered a goal contribution this season, whereas Heung-min Son has scored 3 and assisted 1, so maybe he's been the best player. At Watford, I'm going to go with Ismaila Sarr. A lot of people knew about him from being in the Premier League before when they got relegated, and he was good for them then. He remained at Watford even when they were in the Championship, and he performed well there, but now with that step back into the Premier League, he's been able to score 4 goals so far. Watford have scored 7 goals this season, and 4 of them have come through Sarr, so he's been a massively important player for them. Whereas before, when he was new to the Premier League and quite raw, he looks like a better player now, and it could be that come next summer, even though Watford won't want to sell him, there could be a lot of clubs interested in him, and he could be going elsewhere. At West Ham, their best player is so straightforward, it's Mikel Antonio. I've been impressed by him ever since he joined the club, and I always found him to be an underrated player. However, now I think he's starting to get a lot of credit for how good he is. Scoring 5 goals and assisting 3 times, he's a very well-rounded striker. He's been able to form a good link-up with Said Benrahma, who's played more this season. Benrahma has scored 3 and assisted 2 times, and 2 of those goals scored by Benrahma have been assisted by Mikel Antonio. I really like watching West Ham play, and one of the reasons is for Antonio. I hope his form can continue for the rest of the season. For Wolves, I'm going to go with Raul Jimenez. After his terrible injury, he's come back into the team and looked really good. With 1 goal and 2 assists so far, 19 key passes, is the 4th most in the Premier League. We knew last season when they weren't doing as good that the absence of Raul Jimenez was a big loss for them, but now when he's back into the team we can see exactly how big of a loss he was. Really happy to see him doing well, and I'm also interested to see how the link up of him and Hwang Hee-chan will continue throughout the season as well. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button, it massively helps the videos getting found, and for more Premier League insight and analysis, subscribe to Route 1.